So on my community tab, I wanted to know why certain people are Trump supporters. And so I went ahead and posted that there, knowing that I would get some pretty interesting replies. I posted this on Twitter as well, but I didn't really get any information on Twitter. Maybe that speaks to how weird the Twitter algorithm has been lately. But anyway, I need to get rid of that search. You guys don't need to know that I look up the Miss Illis EP. Let's go ahead and talk about why Trump supporters actually support Trump. In the meantime, let's get into the fan art section, and then we can get into what we are talking about here. My brain is broke. That's weird. I should be better at talking about things and stuff, but apparently I'm not. This one comes from the Fluffy Bee one, made Suris and made Saki being cute. I don't know how to draw lace, so I gave Saki some fishnets instead. Fair enough. The next one we have here is from Cookie Alchemy. I paused at the perfect time. Just hi, Suris. Translates into cute Suris. The last one we have here is from Sage Sam. Not gonna lie, I'm so embarrassed. Everyone here has such good art, but Suris and my persona Sage taking a selfie. Why is it that artists who show that they're good at their art routinely show that they are actually good at their art when they say that they're not good at their art? They're like, oh no, I'm not good at my art. And then they're like, here's my thing. And it just looks great. What? As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it in the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and get into today's topic. And I went over this one in a previous video, but I do want to go ahead and bring it in again here. I came here 2 weeks late with an actual stance as a supporter from a central-leaning Republican. I supported Trump because he didn't ignore us, ignoring the fact that the Shadow Wolf has dropped 50,001 channel points. Jesus Christ. You get your thing, I guess. You get your thing. Hello. There. You did it. You got it. Hope you're happy. Axo, thank you for being on the right side of history. Oh, well. Just, why? I start a topic and people are just like, now's the time for me to ruin it with these words. Dunaboyo, thank you for redeeming your points for an Ara, you fucking degen. Anywho, when people say that Trump didn't ignore them, I have to ask how? Like, in what ways did Trump not ignore you? In what ways did Trump pay attention to you? What does that mean? If you mean, like, did he acknowledge your existence in his speeches? That doesn't mean anything. Who cares what somebody says in their speech? We should care more about what politicians actually do with their time here. Like, what do they do? Said LOL, Trump doesn't care about his base's needs. No, he doesn't. Not really. Give me a second. Let's see here. What were some of the ways that the Trump administration failed rural America? Well, the gap between rural and urban incomes has been growing, and that gap did not change with Trump. Let's see here. He decided to make the postal service run less efficiently, which definitely hurt rural America. He eliminated rural development as a federal mission. He proposed cuts to rural investments from the federal government. Let's see here. He sided with big business in agriculture against independent farmers, which fucks over rural America. He endangered the meatpacking industry's workers and consumers with his deregulation, sacrificed small and medium farms during his trade wars. Let's see here. Despite research showing that green policy can bring additional $8 billion annually to rural communities, Trump has instead spent his time in office rolling back environmental protections and ramping up fossil fuel development. For example, the Trump administration has favored gas and oil companies over renewable energy in the leasing of federal land. Some of the natural land that he auctioned off to oil companies was vital, irreplaceable wildlife habitat for rural Americans. In total, Trump has stripped federal protections from over 35 million acres of natural land. Ah, yes. But don't worry. He definitely had rural America in his mind. He definitely did not leave you guys in shit. Definitely. Not at all. Not at all. We could definitely just look at the actual policies he put in and oops. When somebody goes, for instance, here, when you look at these opinions, and the example of what Trump did to make your lives better is gas prices. Like, gas prices getting better was a huge thing under Trump. One, we're putting a whole lot more emphasis on what the president's powers are than what they actually are. We don't actually have, with our president, unique power over the oil industry. But let's pretend that we did. Let's pretend that Trump is directly responsible for lowering gas prices by what, $1? And you'll vote Republican for that? But we'll ignore things like, you know, the trans ban in the military. We'll ignore the raking up of rhetoric against LGBTQ people in the United States. We'll ignore all of that. We'll ignore the things he does that actually affects minority groups in America, or just people in America in general, as if everybody doesn't have some friend or some cousin or some family member who happens to be LGBTQ. Nah, your gas prices went up. That was better. Person here says, I like him because he actually speaks clearly, isn't a moron, and wins elections instead of stealing them. He doesn't speak clearly. He speaks in circles. The way that Trump speaks, and he speaks a lot, he speaks a ton, he's got the best speaking, I'll have you know. Many people have said that Trump has the best that shit right there that sounds like I'm parodying how he speaks, I'm not. Trump, when he has to make a point, has to spend at least 2/3 of the time in any sentence congratulating himself before he can actually make a point. Isn't a moron? I don't know if we can actually measure that one. And wins elections instead of stealing them. So he definitely won the popular vote against Hillary, and he definitely won the Electoral College against Biden. Except, no, he lost the popular vote against Hillary, only won because of the Electoral College, which is heavily biased because the way that we draw those lines, people can win the popular vote. They can win the majority of America and still lose the election because of the arbitrary values on swing states. But we pretend that he definitely didn't steal an election. He's only won the Electoral College once. He lost both the Electoral College and the popular vote against Biden. I have a friend who's a Trump supporter, but not a supporter, and like another commenter's story, just incorrectly sees Trump as lesser of two evils. Over a day later, there's so many broken comment threads here, just replies debunking whatever Trump propaganda spewed remains. I wonder if Suris got any wiser from this session and that there's screenshots of the things posted. I wonder if it's possible to make a script for taking screenshots of a YouTube post, comments, and replies. Just going through everything every 5 to 10 minutes and collecting all the comment threads. Man, I wish I had the wherewithal to do that. User says, I have several low-info friends that somehow still think he's a businessman and believe that the government should be ran like a business. So, the ones that are like, hey, this is how my friends view Trump. This is how they view Trump. That information is interesting. Not as interesting as what Trump supporters actually believe, but it's interesting as well because it's the way that Trump supporters think they have to frame themselves to their more liberal friends. My mother doesn't listen to politics at all. She likes Trump because he was entertaining. Boy, sure sucks that he's stripping human rights away from people, but goddamn, is he funny. Wow, thanks. According to the guy who was recently interviewing Cosmic Skeptic, I think about how much they both rightly think Andrew Tate is a lying monster. He, the interviewer, not the guest, supports Trump because he thinks the guy who outsources his own companies to China will bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States despite doing the... ... That one broke off. And said, and he's not really funny. Oh, no. Here's the thing. Trump is legitimately hilarious. He is hilarious, but not because the things he says are funny and you laugh with him, but the way he says things is funny to laugh at. Ray Wilson says, I used to support Trump. During the time of the election which I voted for him, the choice was Hillary or Trump. Hillary was a guarantee of the status quo with no change, which, you know, I can agree with that one. In hindsight, I would take that 1,000 times over the decisions of the Republicans. Trump was a complete wild card. I've not seen a candidate with his attitude and approach to handling the political space. Now I know he never intended to do anything other than appeal to whoever keeps him in power the longest. TLDR, he was a candidate who gave the impression he was going to do something unprecedented and turned the stagnant system on its head for both parties. Don't worry, I've grown up a lot since then. I intend to always vote Democrat, and I would advocate for progressive politics. I guess I used to be one of those enlightened centrist types. Man, I hope one day voting Democrat doesn't have to be the default to lower the amount of shit that happens in America. I really hope we hit that point one day where we can actually get ranked choice voting or something that allows us to get other people besides the fucking Democrats in as more left-wing advocates. I would absolutely adore that. Can we please? The problem is ranked choice voting has to be voted on and brought in by people who directly benefit by there not being ranked choice voting. Can you imagine? Yesterday, it says, my father, who I no longer speak to, thinks Trump is the victim of election fraud and that he was wrongfully blamed for January 6th. He also agrees with the nonsense rhetoric that all trans people are predators, that anyone who takes their kids to Pride should have their kids taken from them, amongst other anti-LGBTQ BS. Why am I not able to actually see the longer posts? I'm not able to actually see the rest of those posts? That's weird. Let me see if refreshing can help with that. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the newest first where I was. Okay. Okay, I can actually see the read mores now. Yay, there we go. Even ignoring that directly affects me, it still blows my mind that he can think horrible things about an entire group of people. I had this conversation with my mom, actually, when Trump was on his high horse about arresting anybody who was Antifa. Without actually properly defining what Antifa was, I pointed out to my mom, I was like, hey, you know that means he wants to arrest me too then, right? Like, you understand I'm anti-fascism, right? Most people in America should be? You know that, right? Let's see here. I'm not one myself, but the reason I've seen from others is that he was better for the economy or something. Except the economy suffered under Trump. But okay. This one says, don't forget, there is a 100% legit full religious cult forming around Trump. They literally believe he's the new Messiah and the second coming of Jesus. Telltale has been reading books about this on his channel. It's actually seriously scary stuff. Oh, I know. I know. The problem, though, is that I think most of this doesn't actually circle back to religion so much as it circles back to the politicians who are in power using religion as a cudgel. Maybe I'm wrong. But let me see where we are at now. I hit the wrong buttons. Let's go back down. When I was still on the right, I was drawn in by the narrative of Trump was a good businessman, and I thought that he'd make good economic decisions, and I ignored or tolerated everything else about him. My parents still like him because they got really into guns, hate Mexicans, and are climate change deniers. Well, when it looks like a duck, and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a frog. Blue Jay says, I have family members who are still dead convinced he's the lesser of two evils. Always good to know who in your family is okay with your murder. So they will flat out say he's awful before saying in the next breath that they're gonna support him because both sides are bad. Man, I can't wait until we get ranked choice voting so that people can stop hiding behind this one. That would be way better. Literally, my cousin said he'd make the transgenders illegal and that's good enough for me. Single-issue voters when your only issue is genocide. Not a Trump supporter, but if you fail to ask why in the hell would anyone would support Biden. All right, so Chasson, 3, 2, 1. If you happen to be watching my channel right now, which I doubt, but if you happen to be watching my channel right now, you have just committed the lovely et tu fallacy. The why not you, or you're the, like, literally the no you fallacy. I'm not a Trump supporter, but you failed to ask the important question, why would you support Biden? Okay, because Biden's not Trump. Biden lifted the transgender ban in the military. If it's okay for these idiots to be single action voters, then I'll do that too here. When you do the whataboutism, when you do the Tukokwe fallacy, when you do that shit, it does not help you. I wonder what the responses were here. The reason I'll be voting Biden is that I won't be voting for Trump. Trump and the rest of the GOP want to ban me from existing. At least Biden wants to keep the status quo as far as the trans community goes. Based on what I've read, I highly doubt that would pass, or the bills are misinterpreted. Skeetermania, I know you watch my content, so I know, you know, this comment of yours is full of horse shit. Literally. And I have right here, hold on, where is it? Where did I put it? I have this up specifically. Here we go. Don't worry, it's all misinterpreted. The 900-page document of the mandate for leadership is not a thing, and the Republicans have not been using it as a playbook to take over these aspects of American life, to destroy the healthcare system, to get rid of transgender and LGBTQ rights. Boy, howdy, I wish this wasn't a thing. I wish this didn't exist. I wish you could be correct. But Jesus Christ, it's almost like when I actually cover these bills. I've had this experience. I've had this, no shit, I've had the experience of covering the Don't Say Gay bill and having a real-life friend of mine listen to my coverage of the Don't Say Gay bill, agree with my assessment of the bill as I read it word for word, and then two days later, he listened to one of his other conservative pundits talk about it and was just suddenly on their side. He was suddenly like, nah, it's okay. It's a good thing. He used the argument that the Don't Say Gay bill only affected, the lower rungs of academia, the, third grade, fourth grade, etc. Only the early stages of academia, despite the fact that the bill itself literally had a clause there that allowed them to widen that scope. They were able to widen the scope within the actual thing. And I told him that was one of my major problems with it, and he agreed with that. And then fucking probably Ben Shapiro, which he liked because he pissed off liberals, which is fucking stupid. But he literally changed his stance overnight because he heard that one opinion that was different. I've had this experience where people will see the thing, understand that it's bad, and then somebody else they trust talks about it, and suddenly they flip their opinion without actually taking any time to analyze it on their own. I don't get it. I don't fucking get it. But I've seen this shit happen with people who used to be close to me. I used to be caught in a multimedia bubble, only really being exposed to right-leaning political opinions and grifters. When everything I ever brought up to my family didn't match up with what they heard about stuff, I said screw it, unsubscribed to anything political, and avoided it for at least a month. When I started getting caught up on politics again, I finally saw all the shit that I never heard about. Counter-arguments that weren't straw man. Information that I just wasn't getting. It was both freeing and horrifying to realize how far down the rabbit hole I had gotten without ever really knowing it. If it weren't for taking my family's opposing position seriously, I may never have noticed how fake my worldview was becoming. Now I feel like part of me can really relate when I hear stories from people who left cults. It's basically the same playbook. A lot of politics does involve using cult-like behavior, it's true. Reinheim says, from what I gather, is that some buy the line that he's some kind of messiah. This is back to the point that Telltale had been talking about, and it's crept up into churches. Trumpism is like the Bible in the way that it lauds crooks and dirty men who aren't allowed to bathe or cut their hair, or they lose their power as heroes, no matter how shady they are. Seer Wayne says, I have a family member, one generation older, who hates Mexicans and other dark-skinned people and feels like Trump is in his corner on this. Wow. Fucking hell. I'm not a supporter, but my grandpa was at one point. The reasoning my grandpa gave is, I think he would just be good for the economy. Man, people who largely aren't affected by the economy always using this thing, this argument. The economy isn't a person. The economy isn't going to sleep with you. That one guy from space says, from what I've been able to gather from various arguments I've had with MAGA morons in the YouTube comment sections, it seems that he is seen as the best candidate for alt-right talking points and ideologies. Plus, also, it's easy. You can just other anyone who isn't considered a person by the alt-right standards and blame all the bad things that you can't ignore on them, which is what Trump has done. All the crimes he's committed and how he's run the country doesn't apply to their sense of understanding. I'll give some examples. He mishandled the pandemic. They'd say it's not a pandemic. It was a racial slur virus, and it wasn't as bad as everyone said. Stripped rights from LGBTQIA people? We shouldn't be giving rights to people who aren't mentally sound anyway. Attempted to overthrow the government? Good, the government was corrupt anyway. Compromised the American defense and security? No, he didn't. It's a witch hunt. Bolstered big business and allowed for stripping of workers' rights? He kept gas prices low and cost of living was cheaper. None of the MAGA responses are connected in reality in any way. All of them are easily disprovable if you examine all the various scientific studies or have a basic understanding of inflation or read the indictments. However, the average alt-writer / MAGA person doesn't live in reality. To live in reality is to acknowledge how fucked everything is and how we need to start acting to change it. But for them, acknowledgement will never come. Let's see here. Tasha Cooper says, he's the first leader of my lifetime to not get us in a war. That's a big deal. Yeah, he spent his entire time sucking up to tyrants. Sure thing. We were also already in a war when he took over, so... Blarendarian says, as a kid in Canada, I used to believe he was stupid but a charming grifter, just like any other politician. After a week of his presidency, I changed my mind. I never want to see him running again. Jesus. Said Obama didn't take the nation to war, he was handed a war? Yep. For all the war criminally things Obama did, drone strikes and all that shit, he was handed the war. Hemlock T says, he happily betrayed all his supporters. He happily totes the line of unemployment. See, what's funny, though, is that as I'm reading through this, and I think this is a bias based on this being my channel, it's hard for me to find a lot of actual pro-Trump replies here. It's mostly anti-Trump, or people giving examples on behalf of Trump supporters. Which means what I was hoping to accomplish with this video won't be able to happen, which kind of sucks a little bit. My parents believe Trump to be the second coming of Jesus. We're back to the religiosity aspect. My parents like him because they genuinely believe he's the Messiah. If they were honest, they would just say jingoism and racism. My father's a supporter of his. He gives him credit for a lot of the things that Obama accomplished and refuses to hear otherwise. Here's one that might be interesting. Well, from a former supporter, it was a mixture of Fox News indoctrination and being on the wrong side of an arbitrary cultural war back in 2016. I was a full supporter up until the 2020 election when my bubble was burst and I saw what the Republican Party really was. So we've got propaganda as a reason. A friend of mine was rooting for him in 2016 for the rhetoric of bringing back manufacturing jobs. Therapist brought up something about more jobs created under Trump than Biden. I forgot the details. Let's see. Not a Trump supporter, but I have a friend who was. Basically, the appeal of Trump is how in-your-face he is. Also, he's seen as an outsider who goes against the liberal elites and not caring about what he had to say, no matter how stupid and over the top it was. My friend eventually stopped supporting him when January 6th happened. Turns out, trying to overthrow the government because you lost an election turns off a lot of people. This person, I'm sure, has to be a fucking troll account. I'm inspired by his fashionable hair and citrus fresh skin tone, not to mention his passion for creating a more diverse and egalitarian world, where all people can flourish and reach their full potential with freedom from bigotry and discrimination. Thank God for Trump. As a black gay man. Yeah, I think it actually is. It actually is a charity then. So we got a couple of actual supporters in here. A couple of arguments that we could actually sink our teeth into. But for the most part, outside of that first one we looked at, nothing in here really has a ton of substance. Or it's people bringing the information that was brought to them by their friends or their parents or other people that were around them. This is where I have to ask, because so many of these actually did circle back to, I was in a political bubble. I didn't experience other people's points of view. So much of that leads me to believe that my position that I've held for so long, which is you should have people of different political bents as your friends. You should listen to people of different political bents so you can figure out why they believe the things they do. Maybe you could question why you believe the things you do as well. I think that holds true here. Because when people break out of their political bubbles, they tend to change. They tend to have reasons to believe other things. They get given new information that helps change their point of view. And that's a good thing. But, unfortunately, what I was hoping to happen with this isn't going to be able to happen. My hope was that I would have, effectively a definitive list through here of reasons why people support Trump. But what I got instead was religiosity, sometimes economy, sometimes something about rural America not getting forgotten under Trump, even when it was. But nothing really substantial, nothing of really a whole lot of worth. Not in terms of raw numbers, anyway. But if you guys want me to try to do another analysis like this on other topics, let me know in the comment section below. Who knows? Maybe we'll have better luck next time. Literally, maybe we'll have better luck next time. Let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And as always, everybody, insert end video tagline here.